Hi, this is Katie Nelson. I'm going to talk you through the process of creating a randomizer using Google Sheets. It's a four-step process. The first step would be to create a template based on your desk arrangement for your classroom. Step 2, enter your list of students. Step 3, assign seats to be used. This is called referencing in Sheets or Excel. So you're telling Sheets which data you want to put in that template that you created. And then lastly, you're going to randomize the data so you can see that you can mix up the student groupings after that. So I'm going to pretend that I have a classroom with six groups of 4 desks each. Ultimately, I'm creating a pattern that looks kind of like this. This is how my classroom was set up this year, and I tried my best to arrange it so it looked like the classroom. But interestingly, students still had a hard time figuring out which table was which. At least one student per day would ask, is this the right table? I did label them with playing cards. That's why it's listed as table 2 and not table 1. I didn't want to use any of the face cards. But the students would play with the playing cards, and eventually I would just take them off. And if I wrote on the desk with Sharpie, they would rub it off. So it didn't matter what I did. There eventually would be groups of tables that didn't have a number, and there would be at least one kid per day that would ask, is this table whatever? So try as you may as a teacher to organize and make this easy for them, they still make it hard. So I'm going to pretend like I have 6 groups of 4 in each group. Notice I'm highlighting 2 columns of 4 rows. That's because I want to be able to label the tables and give them a name. I'm just going to use the same as before, tables 2 through 7, but you can obviously label them and name them however you wish. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight that a certain color so that I can see that I have one desk arrangement. And actually I'm going to change the font size first. So I'm going to Command A to select everything in the table. I'm going to change it to one of my favorite fonts because it's very legible and looks like student handwriting that I wish that they would use. And I'm going to change the font size to 16 right now as a default. And then of course when I'm ready to present this to the class, I'm going to make it as large as possible so it's easy to see from any point in the classroom. So now that I set up one grouping, I do want to put the table name right here. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to data, and then format, and then I'm going to merge the cells, merge all, and then I want to label that grouping. I'm going to call it table 2 because again I'm just going to pretend like I'm using face cards to label that. I do want to change the way that that's formatted, so I'm going to choose format and then rotation and rotate upwards. I do prefer for all of my things to be centered, so I'm going to use the centering right here. Notice that's since we rotated it, that's not centering in the way that we anticipated, but that's based on the rotation of the text. So I'll also have to center the cell otherwise. And then I'm going to double click between A and B so that I can resize column A to be the size of the text. Now that I have that set up, I'm just going to copy and paste it so that I have 6 different groupings. And I'm going to change these tables instead to 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So give me a moment to do that. And then to resize again like I did for table 2, I'm just going to double click between D and E and double click between G and H. I do want my tables to be different colors so it's a little easier for the students to recognize the different groupings. So I'm just going to go in and highlight and change the fill color really quick. And there we go. And for the next step, through the magic of the internet, I already have my students entered. So that's your next task, would be to enter the names of the students, either copy and paste a list or typing it in yourself. So I've got a class of 25 students. Next, I want to assign the seats that I'm going to be using. So in this step right here, I am going to reference where I want the data to come from. When you have more than one tab, like I've set up here, you need to tell the sheet that you want it to be from this tab, and then you want it to be these particular cells. The cool thing is Sheets will try to predict what it is that you want it to do. So once you've set up one, it's easy to copy and paste and extend to the rest of the tables. So it's a formula, so I'm going to put in an equal sign, and then I'm going to put the single quotation or apostrophe mark, and then I need to tell it which tab to use, which is step 3, and then I'll close my quotation, my single quotation mark, and then I need to tell it this cell's location, and that cell actually I need to put in an exclamation mark, that's part of the formula, and then I need to tell it the cell that I want, which is J1. And then notice it's anticipating or telling me that this is going to give you the data that's right here that's labeled student 1. And when I press enter, it's going to suggest autofill, which is exciting. Then I don't have to do that from here on out. The tricky part is then I have to come over here and start again, but if I just come into this formula and I copy it, when I paste it over here, I can then just change it to the 5th student in that list, and it will predict that I want students 5 through 8 next. And then I do the same thing here, and I change that to the 9th student in the list, and then it predicts that I want students 9 through 12. And then I come over here and I do the same thing until I have filled in all of, that should be 13, all of my students. I didn't backspace. I just realized I don't have enough desks. So I've got to bring in more desks. So let me create another table. I'm just going to go ahead and copy this one. Just got more desks from the custodian. All is well. Table 8 here. And now I can put my 25th student in a desk. Obviously, I don't want student number 25 to sit by themselves, and so this is when I make a decision as a teacher. Do I want a group of 3 here and a group of 2 here? Maybe I want the group of 3 closest to them, so then I could actually just remove this student here and put them down here. Notice I don't have to renumber anything at all. I can just move around the students because once they are referenced, these students' names can be randomized. So going back to my overview, the last step would be to randomize the data. And this is a new feature as of this school year that's now in Google Sheets. If you select the column that has the data that you want to randomize, you can go to Data and then select Randomize Range. And notice it repopulated all my seats. My students have been moved to different locations. So you can shuffle that as many times as you want. So this is also where you might ask students like for their involvement, and you can shuffle it right in front of them, and you can say how many times do you want me to shuffle, etc. But you can see it randomizes that data and assigns just to where we wanted the students to sit in the classroom. So if I had more desks and I wanted to change up some of the arrangement, I could certainly copy and paste the formula from a certain location to another part of the classroom. I did have a student who requested that he sit alone because that would help him focus better, and I allowed that. So I created his own little desk area and put it on his sheet or his class, and then just put his name. I didn't assign him a spot. I just put his name. We'll call him Ben. I just put his name there, and then his seat never changed. So notice as I randomize everyone else in the class, his seat stays the same because that's not based on a formula. That is a static option. So if you had a student with a disability, for example, that needed to be in a specific location for vision or other purposes, then you could assign them their permanent seat, and then otherwise, and you could put Ben right here too, you could otherwise then rotate and shuffle around all the students around that particular student. I hope you enjoy creating this. You can then copy and paste this whole sheet, and if you teach middle school like I do, and then have multiple periods, and then just be able to switch back and forth from each period and then just shuffle as needed for your randomized seating. Enjoy!